Hello and welcome to This Album with me, William Han. It's the podcast where each episode a guest and I will deep dive an album of their choice. We are going to discuss the songs, the shows, the artwork. But what I really want to know is when my guests first heard the album, what was happening in their life at the time, and the emotional attachment they have to it. Who knows, we might even have a bloody laugh while doing it. Well, today, I'm joined by a man that is single-handedly keeping the dream alive. A man that can name the bass player of every band from the twang, the automatic, the unstrung, and the more assured. He can even spot a Franz Ferdinand B-side from over 30 feet. He knows his good shoes from his good books. He knows his Milburns from his Mumras. He knows his Kooks from his Kaisers and his Black Wires from his Braveries. He knows his Rakes from his Razor Lights and his Little Flames from his Little Man Tates, and his Jolene and the Jing Jang Jongs from Jets. He can even tell the difference between Ryan Jarman and Gary Jarman. From 22 Grand Pod, it's Harry Hainstock. Harry, how are you?
All right, mate, yeah. I don't think I could name any of those bassists, by the way.
It really was a big push, that one, but I believe, I've got faith in you. How's life treating you, mate?
Yeah, sorry, mate. It's good to be in London again.
So we should probably get into it. What is it that's brought you to London this weekend, Harry? Been a big weekend for you.
Yeah. Well, as you know, you were at the event on Friday. Had another event. The second live podcast event at West Hampstead Arts Club, and this time gig as well, an acoustic set thrown in. Yeah. Last time it was just chatting. You were at that one as well, weren't you?
I was at both of them, yeah.
So yeah, interested to get your take actually on on the kind of comparison, but we're down for that again with Everyone Says Hi, Nick Hodgson and Kaiser Chiefs, Ben from Dead 60s, Pete from the Kooks. I've said this information so many times now.
But not on this podcast, you haven't, mate, so don't worry.
No, I just mean it's just so scripted in my head now. I just had to plug
You're a well-oiled machine at this point. But no, I think it was a real hit. I think what you've achieved on that podcast is absolutely massive, Harry. You're proud of yourself. I think like bringing that to a live audience is huge, especially for someone that's not based in London to come and make that happen. Getting acts of that caliber perform for you is massive. You should be dead proud of yourself, man.
No, cheers, man. And I appreciate your support. I know you've been there from the early days. Sent some kind DMs over the years. There's been
a few DMs there and there, absolutely. The long game was thinking, I'm gonna have to get this guy on my podcast at some point. I better start oiling him up now. But to the uninitiated, how would you describe 22 Grand Pod?
Well, NME actually did it for me. Like early on, during lockdown, they asked for recommendations on podcasts, and so I sent them ours, and then they summed it up quite well. They said it's revisiting a heady era for UK guitar bands between 2001 and 2008. So that's how I describe it.
We'll have that.
Yeah, and so I put that in the bio, and then I suppose we ventured a little bit from that sometimes, but mainly that's what it's about.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's funny to be on the other side of it now. Two men in their mid to late 30s having a very different Sunday morning to the sort of ones you'd explore on your podcast of heady days and excess and hotel rooms, and here we are in having quite a nice civilized Sunday morning. What time is it? It's 10:15 on a Sunday morning. Yeah. I can only imagine how different this is from most of your guests' Sunday mornings that you'd normally discuss on your podcast.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
all a bit more grown up now, aren't we?
Well, some of us are. I mean, speaking of the Paddingtons, we're going to talk about. I think they'd be ashamed of my lifestyle these days.
They're not quite as well hydrated as we are this morning. Is that what you're saying?
Well, hydrated in other forms.
Well, of course. And what do you reckon? Obviously, you decided to start a podcast about that era. What do you think makes that particular time in music so interesting?
Yeah, good point. I mean, I heard someone describe it as the indie boom recently. I think that was in a Far Out article. I think it's like maybe the last era of like the old format of how things happened with guitar bands, the linear kind of path of bands. Well, it's kind of like a structure that was followed for years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Contemporary music started, really. And I think it's like the last era where bands could start up, aim to get on a record label and do everything quite linear. I don't know, maybe you're more in touch with new music. It doesn't feel like there's many scenes to get attached to these days. What do you think?
Well, there's not. I think that's exactly right. I think the sort of industry was going through so much change at that point that they couldn't keep up with it. I think the industry has found its feet to an extent now, and I think like there's certain things that the industry's doing which work really, really well, especially for the bigger acts. But the structures and ideas that were in place hadn't changed for 20, 30, 40 years in your era, and that was the first time that they fucking had to. Things were changing at a massive pace that the industry couldn't keep up with. So I think we'll get into it a bit of this particular artist, but it seems as though they had every bit of support possible to make the band a success, and everything that would have worked in the 90s, yet somehow didn't quite achieve what they were sort of set up to achieve. But we'll get into that in a bit more detail, I think. What was going on in your life before you sort of discovered this artist? Was you like listening to something completely different before this? Was it a real game changer in terms of your music identity?
Well, no, like it's interesting. I was talking to a guy who came to the event on Friday, actually. He works for Chrysalis Records now, and but he's from Hull. And he was in a band called the Applewhites. And like a family friend of ours, Big Tommy, who was in the band. So when I was like, it's 2003, 2004, so I was like, 15, 16, I started to go watch them. And I mean, I always liked guitar music and stuff. Like, actually, it's weird, like my dad used to do the PA at Hull City. And then I used to like put on the music from like 10 years old.
Oh, and you were DJing in the stadium?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
At Burfree Park, and we had a deal with HMV where we get the top 10 singles every home game. So I was like, I was like always in with like the music at that point. So like Britpop and stuff, I was hearing a lot of that. But yeah, when it came to actually getting into seeing myself or like throwing myself into some kind of genre, it was the Applewhite School kind of my gateway into these bands. I remember Tom like putting a compilation together of like Libertines, Jet, all sorts. And then they used to cover a lot of these bands, because that was a big thing at the time. I suppose it's always been a big thing, but all these bands used to do a lot of covers. I think like they certainly did. So that was a good way of getting into it. And then with the Paddingtons, like I wasn't there from ground floor or whatever. I wasn't there when they were unsigned. Like the first time I got into them, I remember my mate Markham. He had his iPod, and he brought the album onto the bus, and he was just like, "You got to listen to this." It's like I'd heard of the Paddingtons, but I'd not really listened to them much. And then he was like playing me Panic Attack, and then we were listening to it like all the time at that point. Yeah, thanks to Will for letting me correct myself here, and sorry for putting people through this, but if we're going to put things on record, we may as well get it right, yeah? So I spoke to my mate about this. He's informed me that I actually heard the band first. This is so fucking sad. But I heard the singles first, must have heard the singles first. And Panic Attack came on a night out, and this was before the album came out. And I said to my mate, this is the Paddingtons from Hull, and this is a really good song, basically. And so the next day he grabbed my iPod off me on the school bus, listened to it, got fully immersed in it, and was like listening to it all the time. Then he was one that actually pre-ordered the album from HMV, and then he brought the album on the bus. So I got some of it right. Missed out the credit due to myself and gave it to him, so we can't be having that. Also, Will's informed me my correction I gave to him on the pod about Hull not being in the East Riding of Yorkshire is also bollocks. So I've had a bit of a mare, excuse me. And he's like, wow, we've got to get into these guys. And then obviously they were quite heavily involved with NME. They were like at the heart of it, really. I think Tom was 17 in the core list in 2005.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Which, it's quite, it's maybe a bit of a throwaway thing, but I think Conor McNicholas makes a point that people did care about that. Anyway.
I did. I definitely did. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a huge thing, and they were like right in the middle of it, and they were from Holland. It's like, wow, this is quite pretty ace. And then the music was great as well, and it was like, right, this is our band to get on.
It's funny because obviously you're from Hull yourself, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So being from London, I'm like, never have that thing where, oh my God, this band's from London. This is amazing.
Yeah, true, yeah.
So like, do you think the whole connection was a big part of the reason you got so into this band?
It's definitely a big thing. Ultimately, the music is, if they weren't very good, I wouldn't bother.
Sure.
But the music is ace as well. Especially that first album, the whole aesthetic and sound was just so good. But yeah, it's huge. It's like the Oasis thing, innit? It's like part of their appeal, but a huge part of their appeal for like people like me is that they came from a council estate, and became the biggest band in the world. Yeah, and like even I remember who's that comedian, Scottish guy. He said if it weren't for Oasis, he wouldn't have become a comedian. Just
Kevin Bridges,
Yeah.
he's quite into music, and is it him? Yeah, okay.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Because of the inspiring
Told you
kind
you
of
can
story,
do it.
yeah. And like I totally
There
got
is
that.
nothing you can't achieve.
Like on a very lower level. Like I remember living in London and feeling like that.
Mm.
And like I worked at Westminster Abbey for 2 years, and it was like I should, I should probably felt like I did feel like an outsider to start with. What's the term they use for that?
Feeling like an outsider?
Yeah, imposter syndrome.
Okay, right, yeah.
So I had a bit of that, and then like got more settled, and you think you have like people like Oasis in your mind, and it's just like, fuck it, everyone's a human being. Like, nothing's stopping me from achieving stuff down here.
Yeah.
And then I left.
But I think you try to make things happen. I think that's a reason enough alone. I think a lot of people get stuck in their surroundings and think, well, this is it. This is my life. Fuck it. I've got nothing to achieve. But you had the opposite. You've done something and sort of got off your ass and tried to make something happen. I think you should be dead proud of yourself, Harry. I think it's amazing. It's all Oasis's fault, is it?
You got to make it happen.
You got to make it happen.
But same with the Paddingtons. They, like say, they got off their asses and they came down to... They made it in London before they made it. They were seen as a lot more of a London band at the time.
Yeah. We've alluded to it a little bit. Why don't we reveal who we are discussing today, Harry?
Yeah, well, I mean, I could have picked a number of albums, like The Strokes or whatever, but it's just kind of done to death. So I wanted to do something that was like close to my heart and that could tell a bit of a story with. And... didn't have to think too much about.
You got back to me pretty quickly on this one. Who are we discussing today, Harry?
The Paddingtons with their debut album, First Comes First.
Thank you, Harry. So, the Paddingtons are a 5-piece indie rock band from Hull in East Riding of Yorkshire.
Oh, it's East Yorkshire, I'll just correct there. East Riding is the posh part.
It's all posh part, is it not?
What, Hull?
I'm joking. We can edit out Riding of.
No, it's interesting to keep it in.
Bolstered by support from the indie world's figurehead Peter Doherty, the Paddington star shone brightly, and the band were quickly signed to Alan McGee's Pop Tones record label. Their debut album, First Comes First, was recorded with legendary Oasis producer Owen Morris and was released in 2005. Sonically, it sounds massive, and it is equal parts scrappy and chunky, and it's fully loaded with layers upon layers of distorted guitars. The album received unfairly lukewarm reviews, and it failed to make the top 40. The band toured excessively, and they went on to release a second album, No Mundane Options, in 2008. Unfortunately, that went on to receive even harsher criticism than their debut. Though they've had their share of dormant years, they've never really split, and they will semi-regularly get the gang back together to play some shows. They even recently supported the Libertines on their massive Up the Bracket anniversary show at Wembley Arena in 2022, and the band have got shows scheduled for 2025. So Harry, what made you choose this album to discuss today?
Can I just ask you about the lukewarm reviews? Because I think An Enemy was quite good, wasn't it?
It wasn't. It was it 6.5 or 7, I think. I think it was 6.5.
Right,
Pitchfork.
for the first album?
Yeah. Pitchfork
right.
was 3.5.
I thought Mark Beaumont gave it a decent review.
Not according to my research on Wikipedia.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So this is the thing. Like, it's hard. I mean, Conor McNichols got into it on your live podcast, didn't he? If he gave a great answer about his reviews, they were only serving the people that brought the magazine. He didn't give a fuck about, helping out a band. Yeah. He just wanted to absolutely make sure that someone that spent £2.50 on The Enemy and is about to spend £12-13 on a record that weekend, that they get an honest review. I don't think it's a fair review, though. I think the band, especially at that time, it's an 8, 9, 10 album in The Enemy, surely.
Yeah, but that's the thing, innit? It's like, we discussed it on Friday, the thing with 10,000 Things. That I really like some of those songs. So like I think it's a solid 7 out of 10 at least, that album. Well, not at least. I'd say it's 7 out of 10. And yet Mark Beaumont reviewed it, gave it a 1 out of 10. Killed the career. So it's like one guy's opinion has killed someone's career. It's like, but that's the game, I guess.
That's the game. It's funny though, actually, because something I was going to bring up on Friday. I remember we had the Dead 60s performing and part of the interview process at your event on Friday. And I remember watching the Dead 60s at Reading, must have been 2008, and it was on just before the second album cycle. And they released the one single, and I remember it was called Stand Up For Your Man. And I remember him performing it at the show. And The Enemy just caned it. They said this song is absolutely crap. And if I remember correctly, they got dropped off the back of the review of one single.
Okay, I'm supposed to be talking to the lead singer next year, so I'll get into that. Yeah.
So, we answered the question probably. What made you choose this album today?
Yeah, something close to my heart, something that kind of sums up. I mean, I guess, can people pick any album of any era for this?
Literally anything. It's an open door so far.
So I guess like I need to choose something that links in with the pod that we're doing.
You got to stay on
And
brand,
it's
haven't
like,
you?
I mean, it is my era, so I wouldn't really pick another era of music, I don't think. So yeah, it's close to my heart. It kind of sums up that whole era for me. That era where you're getting into music. Kind of inspired me to start a band at the time.
Talk to me. What was the band
Obviously,
situation,
that
Harry?
changed landscapes. We were called Awful Scenes, which incidentally is a lyric in Paddington's second album.
That you inspired?
Well, Josh told me it was, but he might have just been trying to make me feel good. But yeah, I just thought it's kind of like the zeitgeist for me of that era in terms of, don't know, what inspired me and my mate to get bang into it, basically. Yeah, a lot of good memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think any band that's going to make you sort of pick up a guitar and make something happen with your best mate. I mean, this is the band that are literally changing your life, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, like obviously the likes of them and Pete Doherty definitely inspired me to pick up a guitar. Yeah.
Were you playing guitar already before you heard this album?
Yeah, a bit. But then like kind of took it to the next level. What next level? Kind of like took it a bit more seriously after hearing the likes of the Paddingtons. But it became a thing in Hull. It was like, you know, we talk a lot on the podcast about the idea of people copying bands and like the landfill thing. But people saw the success of the Paddingtons and then were trying to become the Paddingtons. And you'd like to think you're not that band, but we probably were.
Of course. You're offering nothing new.
Yeah, probably weren't. I remember my mate trying to book us a gig once at Delphi in Hull. And Paul Jackson, who runs it, was like, "Oh yeah, what are they like? Libertines, Paddingtons, is it?" He's like, yeah. He's like, "Yeah, I'll give you a ring, mate." Yeah.
But there's no judgment from me, Harry. I mean, this is literally an absolute replica of my experience of like playing a bit of guitar during the Oasis era, and then discovered Baby Shambles and the Libertines, and got back into guitar and took it more seriously. And the same as you, started a band with my mates. Probably about as original as your band by the sound of things.
Yeah.
You know, just Libertines, Arctic Monkeys, rip-offs. What a time to be alive.
I'd like to think we weren't complete rip-offs, but we had one. It was worth it for one song we did, which still stands up for me.
It's funny because I think every single like you know, lower league sort of band of that era, all sort of circuit bands you play with, they all had one or two good songs that you still remember. It's funny. I think everyone's got a song in them, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely influenced by. You can hear like the influences on it in terms of lyrics and stuff. But yeah,
sure.
But yeah, I think just like you're probably the same, but we just didn't look into like pedals or anything like that.
Not until much later. Well, I didn't have the money for it anyway. Even if I wanted to, I didn't have £100 to spend on a pedal. That was not an option. So we had I had an overdrive pedal and a tuner pedal, which, do you know what? I'll say it on the podcast, fuck it. I remember in about 2005, we saw the Rifles and Milburn play at 93 for East in East London. And my mate nicked their guitar pedals.
What?
Terrible, wasn't it? He didn't tell me this till he got outside afterwards. He had a Boss tuner and a Boss overdrive up his jumper that he'd nicked from the fucking band.
Whoa.
I was like, Jim, what the fuck? He didn't play guitar. He said, I don't know what come over me. I just fucking took...
He didn't even play guitar?
Didn't play guitar. We just fucking took him.
Was he high at the time?
He wasn't sober, I'm sure. But like, yeah, I think he was ashamed of himself. He was not proud of himself for it. But Milburn, Rifles, if you're listening, I cannot apologise enough.
You didn't feel like coming clean then and giving him back?
Look, I'm trying to right my wrongs now, Harry. It was a long time ago. I am not the person I was in 2005.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We did some pretty stupid stuff. We nearly sabotaged a Good Shoes gig once.
Talk to me.
Well, we were just like, we were going a bit hell for leather on this night out in Leeds, going to see Good Shoes. Stormed the dressing room beforehand. Like, just brewed in our social club. Just like chatting their heads off, being just must have been so annoying because they seem quite sober and relative.
They're not the most sort of like, as much as I love Good Shoes, I've met them a few times actually. They're not the most sort of like extroverted band, are they?
Yeah, like they're just doing their own thing, and then they were being really hospitable. And then during the gig, our mate Jack got up on stage and must have kicked out a lead, cut out the sound.
While they were playing?
Yeah, and he just stood there in a straw hat with his arms out like, oh no. And then then we went backstage again after the gig, and they were like,
you don't go back at that point.
they were like, lads, leave us alone. Like, just give us a few minutes. I was like, yeah. And then, like, looking back, I can't believe we behaved like that. and like, potentially getting one of them on next year. So hopefully they don't. I might have to come clean about that. But
So apart from coming from the same part of the world as you, what do you think made the Paddingtons stand out amongst their contemporaries?
I think they had that thing that's like Goldust, really, that simple approach to songs, but it's the most powerful, I think, a lot of the time. If you can do it simple but well.
Yeah.
It like cuts through, basically. I think a lot of their music cuts through. You know, you see so many bands we did in Hull, like there's, you know, it's just like an effort to watch a band.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, this isn't really doing anything for me. It's just so generic. But like the Paddingtons used to come on at like Linnet and Lark. I remember seeing them, and it's usually like take the place off. I remember like fruit machines flying on the floor and stuff. It was really interesting listening back for this, because I was like looking at the lyrics for like the first time in a long time, or maybe ever, and like I realised like how good some of the lyrics are, and kind of like even improved some of the songs for me. Like
So what are the standout lyrics for you?
Panic Attack. You choose your side. I mean, it probably resonates more with me now than it would do as an 18-year-old. But
We've had a few panic attacks in our mid-30s, haven't we?
you choose your sides. You choose your side. Choose well if you want to stay alive. Keep yourself in mind. Don't say you cannot see the signs. I think that is outstanding lyrics.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
I don't know if that's Lloyd or Tom. I don't know who wrote that song. I've heard that Tom wrote it, and then I've heard that Lloyd wrote it. Maybe it's like a joint thing, but be interesting to know. But yeah, that's one that stood out today. Great vocals. Tom's got a great voice, like proper. I think Alan McGee said the reason he signed the Paddingtons, well, one of the reasons was because Tom reminded him of like a Johnny Rotten type. And yeah, I think he's got that quality. Yeah, they just got a great. I think Owen Morris who produced the album, had a huge influence on the sound. He created that, or helped him create that live sound that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, we should probably get into that sort of side of things as well, because let's get it right. There weren't many bands at that point who were getting their debut album produced by the guy that done Definitely Maybe, Morning Glory, and Be Here Now. And it's like Owen doesn't done that many albums. You know, he done the View's second album. He done this one.
He did the first album as well, didn't he?
Did he do the first one as well?
The View, yeah.
Oh, right, fair enough. Oh, yeah, no, you are right, actually. Yeah, I did know that.
There's some mad stories about Kyle's.
Yeah, there's some video footage, actually, isn't there, of them going bonkers.
Yeah.
I just remember that now. Okay, fair enough. So both their albums. But that's a big fucking coup, isn't it? It's a big pull to get the guy behind those albums to record your debut. So you mentioned the influence he had. What do you reckon he got out of the band?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the Alan McGee effect, first of all, that got him in, I think. Obviously, that link. But I mean, the Paddingtons to talk about is mad. It's like a proper experience, I think, down in Wales.
It's not a sober album, is it?
No. There's all sorts going on. The recording at all hours.
Because here's the thing, Harry. Like, I don't know about you. Have you ever tried to play guitar after 4 or 5 beers?
Yeah, terrible. Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. How the hell this album is so cohesive is anyone's guess. Because obviously it's a bit loose in places, but it's well oiled. You know what I mean? It's driven, and yet I couldn't begin to imagine picking up a guitar that pissed.
Yeah, well, it's interesting talking. It's like Marv says, Owen Morris got him in the studio, and was just. I mean, he was a big fan of like putting loads of guitar tracks down. I think that's what
you can hear it. Like there are layers and layers upon guitar on this, isn't there?
I think he had Marv in like the studio bit and was just playing. Apparently, he was just playing American Idiot over and over again. And he's like, "We've got to get this sound. Listen to it, Marv." But like, he was like torturing. Compared it to like a football manager, like a producer.
Right.
And it's like a good producer knows how to get the best out of each individual. That's what it sounds like. Obviously, I don't have the experience myself, but Owen Morris is that type. Bit of a Brian Clough figure, I think Lloyd said, where he just knew how to press each one of the buttons. So he'd like, I think Marv was in bed and Owen Morris would just be like through the wall. He'd be like, Marv, just trying to like get in his head,
negging him.
Yeah, and like I think Tommy would just get really inebriated.
Yes,
in certain ways. Lloyd, I think he used to like neg Lloyd, I think, a little bit. and made him watch a film over and over again or something.
You'd have thought, though, time is money. Who's got time? The luxury just to fuck with the band as opposed to, right, come on, boys, in you get, record.
Yeah.
It must have cost them a fortune.
Well, I think they had major label money behind him, I think.
Yeah.
So, like, it's one of those things that it's a shame there's no documentation. I was thinking today, there's no real photographs of anything of when they recorded it. Like, you'd love to see a bit of that. But it sounds like a real experience. I think Marv had to go home at one point.
Pick up the pieces a little bit.
Yeah, and then go back. I think Owen Morris told him to like get lost one day. He's like, "You do my head in, Marv," because I think Marv tried to get him back a bit. Right. So it's tried to start annoying Owen Morris, and in the end,
Didn't quite get the vibe right.
Owen Morris was like, "You gotta fuck off for a bit, mate."
That's funny.
But yeah.
So, but this band's had a big impact on you. We talked about the music side of it, but how important do you think the whole sort of fashion and imagery side of things was for an impressionable young man as you were when you discovered this band?
Yeah, huge. Yeah, I mean, just something about that scene really captured my imagination in terms of the fashion. I remember like going to see like I said, the Applewhites band when I was like 14.
Sorry, who are the Applewhites? You mentioned this a few times now.
They're just a local Hull band that I knew. They were all right. They had some good songs, but they were lacking something that the Paddingtons definitely had.
Right.
But yeah, I got like the fashion influence from them first of all, and we just copied what they were. But it still looks cool now, I think. But obviously, I wouldn't attempt to wear the clothes. But when you look back, they do look like a cool band.
I think so.
Yeah.
What was your biggest fashion faux pas in this era? How badly were you dressed?
Well, immediately what comes to my mind is my mate tried to copy Josh's yellow jeans.
Hey, hang on. Choose your next words carefully here, okay? My little brother was big on the yellow skinny jeans scene here, right, Harry. Choose your next words
the
carefully.
Thing is, you lived in London, so you could get away with it. It's a bit different.
Would you say that? Try getting the night bus back to fucking Hillingdon at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? Walking through Uxbridge High Street. It was... Jack definitely got some stick for that, let me tell you.
And then at one point, the Paddingtons, Josh particularly, I think, used to wear this like chainmail type looking top. And I remember I tried to get away with it. I was just like, I didn't have the body shape for that. I didn't really have the body shape for skinny jeans, but I still tried them. Our band got a real... Do you remember Sandman magazine?
No, I don't.
It might have been a northern thing or like a non-London thing. But our band got a real bad review in there. We played the Grapes in Sheffield, where famous for Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah.
And they
big day for you guys, I'm sure. Like, we're playing the Grapes.
Well, it's one of only 2 gigs we played outside of Hull. We got on this thing called the Transit Tour. So you got thrown in with a couple of other bands, one called Cats for Peru, who were actually really good. They really had like a bit of a Jack Black vibe to them. So we all went to each other's hometowns. So they came to Hull, we went to Sheffield and Leeds. I mean, already we were falling apart a bit. The dynamic was... We did everything like fast. We only played about 13 gigs, but we kind of like had all the angst going on. But this reviewer said we didn't have any choruses, and he said the skinny jeans on the band looked quite good apart from the lead singer.
Oh,
I was like, wow.
That's personal, isn't it?
I remember reading that at my girlfriend's house. I was like, I've got to change something here.
Bless you, mate.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to get onto the artwork with this album. I've actually arranged a little something for us here, Harry. I know this is an audio format for the most part. Why don't you have a little deep dive into this bag here?
Just put them up.
Now, there may be some similarities to another very famous YouTube series here, but what are we holding in your hands there, Harry?
It's just the one. Was that on second out?
Well, keep getting them out. Keep going.
I didn't realise you were such a big fan. It's quite a relief.
Well, I've got to say, these are my little brothers.
Oh, right, okay.
That's not to say I'm not a fan. My God, I bought this album when it came out, of course.
Can I just point out how rubbish Tom's... Well, these autographs are pretty rubbish, aren't they, on this?
The reviews are in. Tom, if you're listening, your autographs are
this is
shit.
A signed, sorry, 7-inch. Is that what you call them?
7-inch, that's right. What else we got here? Talk us through it a bit.
Lloyd's gone for the initials.
Classic of the genre.
Josh is going for a squiggle. Josh was like fancying himself as the artistic one. Marv's is like a coiled spring. It's like, that must be Grant, but...
Some real judgments here on the autographs. I didn't realise it was that important to you, Harry.
Actually, I've never seen them before. So that's interesting anyway. The B-sides on the Paddington song were interesting. On the Paddington singles.
Mr. Crackers.
I bought a single where they accidentally put Razorlight on the B-side.
No way.
Yeah. I've got it at home.
That's well funny. What, a Paddington's one?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I can't.
Like a misprint.
I might do a video on that or something. Yeah.
That's funny. Was it Raised Like B-side or?
Yeah, I think so.
That's well funny.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, this is the Paddingtons album. Very striking imagery. I haven't got it up there, but very striking imagery. I think I definitely know the backs. Roger Sargent did these photos. I'm pretty sure.
Speaking of the photos, what is it about walls that indie bands just absolutely bloody love?
Isn't this similar? It's similar to a Clash album, isn't it?
It'd be the first Clash album, isn't it, I think, where they're against a wall.
Similar format.
So we got the Clash to blame for a legacy of indie bands in front of walls.
I think it's definitely similar to the back. Photographs, Roger Sargent, artwork, Marty Sharp, who's from Hull, I think. I think the back's on Beverly Westwood in the snow. I used to go to school in Beverly.
That's someone you know?
Yeah. My grandma used to go to school in Beverly, so that's quite cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
But used to go to school in Beverly, so that's quite cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
But I always thought they should have, in hindsight, they should have just stuck with this branding, because I think they changed it for the second album.
I think the logo is really solid, isn't it?
It's great, isn't it? Yeah.
Really solid.
That's like, as soon as I see it, you think Pete Paddington's that kind of, that logo and that branding, yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
In fact, I should probably say, actually, so when I first discovered this band, it was a really weird situation. I was, not a weird situation, but I remember I was on the Baby Shambles forum one day, and someone said, these are the two bands you've got to check out, and gave a big sort of zip file of a bunch of Paddingtons demos, listened to them and thought, oh, that was amazing. And that exact same day, I downloaded the zip file by another band, which sort of took the shine off the Paddingtons a little bit. It was a band called Arctic Monkeys. And this is like, I guess, summer 2005, and it had, those 12, 13 original demos on it. Unfortunately, the Paddingtons could have become a big thing for me, but Arctic Monkeys just beat them to it on that day. So that became the main focus. But, I love the Paddingtons. I saw them plenty of times back in the day and loved those demos and the album when it came out. But, yeah, Arctic Monkeys pipped them to the post.
Yeah, well, I know what you mean, because like I said before, I wasn't there with the Paddingtons from the ground up, whereas I felt like I probably was more with the Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah, same.
I remember going to see him for like £6 in Hull.
Massive.
And obviously a lot of people were on board early doors with them, but yeah, I know what you mean. It felt like, this is our band.
Yes, exactly that.
Yeah.
Because I saw them at the Astoria, that first time they played the Astoria. Would have been early 06, late 05, what it was now. So probably a little bit after your show maybe, but like even that, you knew you was at the forefront of something absolutely fucking seismic.
Yeah.
That show is amazing, actually, because even before the band got on stage, people were singing their songs that haven't even been released yet. There's like mass sing-alongs of like From Ritz to the Rubble in the crowd. These songs don't even exist yet. They're just in demo format. It was just completely new world. What was happening in your life when you first discovered this album?
Well, we started going out at that point, basically.
Yeah.
I remember, being too young. There's the Highway to Hull tour.
What a name. I remember this very well, yeah.
So it was like, right, I've got to get on this. Because it was weird for me, actually, because I started working at a bar when I was 15. Basically, I knew Tom's ex-girlfriend before I knew Tom. So she would, like, feed me, like, tidbits about the band, like what different songs were about and stuff. So that was good. And then, yeah, Highway to Hull, I think, was before I met her, though. So I got that out of order. But yeah, basically we were too young to get into the gig, but it's one of those venues where it was a decent chance you're going to get in. But my mate Markham, who I mentioned, there was like a private birthday there about a month before, and we obviously lied about our age to get in. I used a fake ID.
Classic.
And then he fucking there's hardly anyone on the dance floor, right? DJ plays Scummy by Arctic Monkeys. Yep. My mate he tries to crowd surf with about 5 people. It falls down and breaks his arm on the side of the stage. So he gets like transported to like the kiosk bit, and the woman who works at the club, Welly Club, she's like, "Oh, right, how old are you for the insurance?" And he was like, he just lied. He's told the truth at the wrong point. He's like, no, he's definitely supposed to lie about your age. He's like, 17 or 17, and like, oh fucking hell. And like, he's like, well, you're banned.
You've just fucked up everything.
Because like, this could, if we get investigated for this, we could be in trouble. Then his dad had to take him off in the ambulance. Well, I had to go with him as well. But yeah, basically, Highway to Hull happened about a month later. So I went without him with other mates. But I remember that was a great night, supported by 10,000 Things. You could still smoke indoors. I remember that because we were like daft. You know, we didn't smoke, but we bought a pack of cigs. Just like walking around smoking. And remember 10,000 Things Supported, because Sam Riley, who's obviously a big actor now, he was like, he ran out in the crowd for the Paddingtons. He was like with us, like jumping up and down with
Amazing.
us. Which is ace. And then...
Well, that's something I sort of loved about this whole era. You'd be at gigs and at club nights, and you'd see the biggest pop stars of the time and rock stars of the time.
I bet it's ridiculous in London, though.
Honestly, right? I remember one night, I was at Coco, and looking up to the little sort of, I don't know what you call them, sort of the little booths up the top, and seeing the Arctic Monkeys up there one night. I was like, fucking look, this band could be anywhere on earth, and they're choosing to go to the same places that I want to spend the night. It was amazing. Next morning, I'm bleary-eyed watching Soccer AM, and Arctic Monkeys are on wearing the exact same clothes they'd worn the previous night. They hadn't gone to bed, and it's the one where Alex Turner gets his like fake ID out. I don't know if you remember it.
It's on YouTube. I've never seen it.
It's on YouTube, yeah.
I might have to do
they're not on best form because they're so bloody young at that point, not really media savvy, but they're hungover as fuck and hadn't gone to bed. They'd been partying with me the previous night in Coco. And then another night being at Coco, and the whole cast of Skins was there, and Amy Winehouse was there, and Kelly Osbourne, and like just thinking, fucking just Amy Winehouse
just walking around.
is going to their little booth
right.
up the top. But either way, it's like, this is where they want to spend their night. And I'm in the same place there. It felt like you're in the epicenter of the planet. It was just such an exciting time. It really was. And like, we'd be at Coco every Friday night. We'd be at Frog most Saturday nights. And it's just the epicenter of a culture.
Yeah, but it was amazing.
It was pretty cool. But that leads me on quite nicely, because I think it was the Highway to Hull tour. Saw the Paddingtons.
It's a whole hard.
we're keeping that. Yeah, I think it was the Highway to Hull tour. Saw the Paddingtons at Coco. Must have been late 05 or early 06. And in fact, we've been early 06. It's part of the Enemy Awards tour thing. That's what it would have been. Yeah.
All right.
So it was Paddingtons and Dogs supporting as well, and a few other bands. And I remember that was when a seismic shift happened. The last time I wore what I'd think of as civilian clothes.
I know what you mean, yeah.
I'd wore like a River Island top. It was like a polo top that had a fake T-shirt underneath it. And I just remember thinking, like, everyone here is so much cooler than me. Like, tomorrow, I'm buying skinny jeans and the entire wardrobe is out. Everything's fucking changing now. And my little brother Jack was there that night as well, as he often is. And he had his first ever crowd surf that night.
All right.
He'd done about 10 of them that night. You couldn't get him. He spent more time up in the air than he did on the floor that night.
All right.
It was a big night, man. So got a lot of good memories attached to this album myself and this band. So when you said you were choosing this band today, right in my wheelhouse, Harry. Very little revision needed for this. So thanks for making it so easy for me. How often do you revisit this album?
Good question. Been revisiting albums a lot more, and I got a CD player in my car. So
a what?
Exactly, yeah. So I've had to like buy a load of CDs, even though I've realised now that I can just get a little thing for your
Bluetooth thing.
Yeah.
That's what I've got for the car,
you stick in your lighter.
Yeah.
Car lighter thing. So I don't know why I didn't do that before. But revisit now and again. I mean, I don't think it's one of those albums that stays fresh, I think.
Mm.
There was like an era between this first and second album where there was a lot of great songs that never really surfaced as well. Kind of lost B-sides.
Well, this is something that you don't get anymore without sounding like too much of an old git. Bands don't release demos anymore.
Yeah.
And because the technology is so good nowadays, they have like a DIY setup at home. You're making like album ready songs when you're demoing them. So you miss out on these great early versions. I mean, you mentioned Scummy Man there, and the gifts from the gods that came from the Paddingtons and Arctic Monkeys and the Libertines and all these bands, that you just felt like you were in such a insider of getting these little gifts people don't get to have anymore.
No, definitely, yeah. Yeah, there's some people in Hull that have all these like B-sides that were recorded. I mean, like the Paddingtons recorded at the Charlton studio at one point. So there's like a really good version of You and I that was on the second album. Because like the Highway to Hull, just after that really, they had like these second album songs, and it was like, wow, this is going to be massive.
I remember You and I being on there. I remember having an old demo of that that made it onto the second album. And there's another couple of songs, but I was going to say, because I remember hearing demos for that second album as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got to wonder what was in it for the band to release these demos, though. Especially if the songs made it onto the second album. It just doesn't serve the band very well, I don't think, to have these demos released. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think they knew what was going on. It took too long to get the second album out. They kind of, the boat had already set sail a bit at that point. Like, I think it came out in 2007 where...
It was 08, yeah.
Was it 08?
Things had changed a lot by 2008, hadn't they? They really, really had.
Whereas in hindsight, they should have copied, basically done like... almost put that in blue or something. Or like change the title slightly. And just banged out another one the year after.
Yeah, because that second album cover, it's not great, is it?
I understand why they wanted to change the branding. I think Josh took control a bit at that point and was like, probably thought, we need to do something different here, like times are changing a bit.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, they should have just like done what they do well.
Yeah, sure. I don't think you need to change too much by album 2, do you? I don't think anyone would hold that against you. Album 3, you've got to develop a little bit, but album 2, just fucking get it out. You're still the same bunch of kids, aren't you?
Like the Strokes, kind of...
or even Arctic Monkeys,
format,
really. They didn't change too much until the third album, did they?
Yeah. But it's all easy in hindsight. But I think the record label kept them hanging on.
It's weird, isn't it?
Or like fucking them
They had some
apart.
good songs in the second album, though. I remember, like, What's the Point in Anything New?
Yeah.
You and I. They had some good stuff, but it was just a bit too late in the game, wasn't it, by 2008?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like they should have been third album songs, probably.
Yeah.
Because like I think Lloyd wrote a lot of the early demos for the second album.
Right.
That should have been a second album in its own right. Like songs like Broken Man just went missing.
One thing we've not really discussed is like standout tracks for you. So let's have a look. I mean, it starts off pretty strong. Some Old Girl, big guitar parts opening the album.
Yeah, I mean, Belting, when I was listening to it today before I came here, kind of puts the hairs on the back of your neck type vibe.
Call to arms. Wake up, motherfuckers, we're here.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. A really strong start with the first two songs, I think.
Honestly, the whole first side of the album, it's pretty relentless, I think. It just...
Well, it's strong until about... There's only like 2 or 3 where it's like... I wouldn't say fillers, it's just like more album tracks.
Well, I would even argue B-sides, I think. I think we're both thinking of the same song here. And I think it's something that everyone thought they had to do in this era, was pretend for a little bit you were in a ska band or you were in a reggae band. We blame the Clash for this, I reckon. But I was just as guilty of it. You've got to do a bunch of upstrokes for some reason, which is something that no one does anymore, you know what I mean? It just sounds so naff, man.
Well, All Right in the Morning?
All Right in the Morning.
Do you know,
that intro
that's the View's favourite Paddingtons song.
Is it really? I mean, the second half of the song is better, but why you've got to pretend to be in a reggae ska band in this era, I've no idea. But everyone did it, and I throw my hands up. Fucking hell, I pretended to be in a ska band for a little bit as well.
Fair play.
But even that's got its moments, that song. When it gets to the middle 8 part, it's probably one of the best middle 8s in the album. It's fucking absolutely driving. I was like, why didn't it do the whole song like that?
Yeah, I know what you mean. They had a few demos like that. There was one called Kingswood Reggae, which is quite funny. But
we're focusing on the negatives here, and that's one of very few of them.
Get them out of the way, I guess.
Absolutely. On to the good stuff.
But yeah, I mean, goes from strength to strength early on. Like I say, listening to the lyrics again, or like reading the lyrics, for like the first time.
You've got beautiful handwriting, by the way. Looking at your notes here. Love this.
I'm struggling to read that. But like chaotic minds, they have no shame, for the first comes first. Lyrics like that, pretty outstanding. It's that thing I was saying earlier, like doing it simple but well, cutting through. All those songs on the first side of this LP, definitely do that.
There's some big choruses there, aren't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the thing that Lloyd said as well. Like people wanted to maybe throw them in with the Libertines and like say they were like. I don't know if people did say they were a Libertines rip-off, but a lazy opinion would be to say that.
I don't think there's that much. I mean, honestly, I was trying to find the Libertines similarities, and there ain't that many of them. I think it's really unfair.
It's more of a punk vibe.
Exactly, because I think they play their guitars a lot harder than the Libertines do. They really attack their instruments in a way that I don't think the Libertines do.
No, there's no jingly-jangly stuff.
Nothing jingly-jangly on this, no, which is very much the MO for the Libs. Yeah, I think it's a really unfair comparison, in all honesty.
Yeah, and for like £52, like the Sex Pistol vibe. Like I always think it's really interesting that they played a gig with Glenn Matlock once, because there's definitely comparisons to Sex Pistols. I think
so.
You can hear that in £52, which is it's got like a bit of a whole story behind it, like with some like whole characters, which is quite a good one for me, really. Kind of like,
you know, the people the song's about, do you?
Yeah. Well, there's a few of them like that. Yeah, I've had a few tidbits over the years. It's like, oh, this is about that person. This one's about.
I know him. Yeah.
This one's about that person's girlfriend.
That's cool.
So yeah, there's a few like hooks in there, and then like on Worse for Wear, some great melody, like some great harmonies on that. You can hear like the American Idiot thing I said. You can hear some of like with all the guitars on
I have
it.
to listen back to that now. That's not a similar I would have.
Maybe not like the
spotted.
actual chords, but like just like the layering and stuff on it.
There's a little bit of humour as well on track. Is it track 5, Loser? I remember them saying in an interview that they basically went to a songwriting like class or something,
really?
some class to help you with songwriting. They said, "Hey guys, a really good thing to write songs about is the dangers of drinking drugs." And they're going, let's write a song about being told how bad it is to do drinking drugs. So I'm a loser if you say so. So there's a bit of humour in this album as well, which is always good to see.
And then when it comes to Panic Attack, I mean that is our anthem basically.
That's the big one, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like. I mean, listening back, it's like I think it's as strong as most songs of that era, especially from this country.
Yeah, it's so basic. Just three chords. Bang.
Yeah. But just done really well.
Done really, really well.
And obviously those lyrics that I pointed out. I mean, when we used to go to indie nights, obviously they'd play it in Hull. But then when we used to go to other cities, and you could like request songs a lot more back then, couldn't you?
Do you reckon?
Do you not think that? I mean, obviously don't go out much now, but I feel like you could request songs a bit more.
I don't think DJs ever appreciated that, Harry. I think you used to request songs more. Well, I doubt very much the DJ cared for it.
It was a thing in Hull at Weller. You could request a song. They had like little memo cards.
Yeah.
But maybe we annoyed people.
Try doing that at Coco on a Friday night and see how it went down, mate.
It's a bit of a different setup.
To be fair, I can never even work out what the DJ booth was at Coco. It's not as if they were on the stage or anything. It must have been like I don't know where the fuck it was.
Yeah, I was at Lexington last night. I was looking at theirs. Theirs is quite out the way as well. Because they have a big indie night, don't they?
Yeah, very much so. I was there probably about... It's in the summer, I think. Maybe May time. Wicked night, man. Me with a couple of mates. It was sort of an unplanned one where the day really picked up steam.
They're the best ones, aren't they?
Honestly, very unplanned. And I said, yeah, we can go to the Lexington. They still do an indie night there. And it'd been a long day and a long evening. We're just sort of wobbling on the dance floor. It was brilliant. Yeah, it's great to know that there's still like a place for that, really, because it was rammed. It's like a proper pool there still to go there for an indie night.
Yeah, I went last about 19. But yeah, I remember having a decent time.
Good stuff. I think we're sort of getting to the point of wrapping things up, unless there's anything you'd like to discuss, Harry, that we've missed.
There is a theme on this album where there's like that I've not asked them about, where a lot of the songs kind of gear up to this big crescendo, last chorus. I'd be interested to ask them about that, whether that was like a songwriting technique or whether that was like Owen Morris's influence. Because I know Owen Morris basically told them to write a chorus for £52. They didn't have one. And if you watch that video of Pete Doherty singing with them backstage, he gets confused because he
knows the demo version.
He knew the song without the chorus.
Yeah.
But I think that was an interesting songwriting technique. 'Cause a lot of the powerful songs kind of lead into this massive final chorus. I almost appreciate, like I say, it more now listening back and looking at lyrics. Because when I was writing songs, it's at that age, it's hard, isn't it? Like you don't have much life experience.
It's true. Yeah, it's a really good observation actually, because you've not had your heart broken yet. You've not seen the world. You're not left whole. You know what I mean? Like, what have they got to write about? And yet they're even writing about panic attacks. No one fucking talked about panic attacks in fucking 2005, did they?
Yeah, I suppose they hit it quite hard. Like that, the whole scene in Hull was pretty hedonistic from early doors.
It's not unique to Hull, I'm sure, man.
No, I know what you mean, but like, it's quite eye-opening to me as a kid going to these parties. Obviously, that was a whole theme of the era with the libertines and stuff. But
was it the really naughty ones or just the slightly naughty ones going on?
Oh no, sorry, it's more party drugs, yeah, rather than anything.
The fun stuff, then, nothing too.
Yeah, I suppose London was full like.
But I never really saw any of that sort of. I remember like once or twice seeing people get really naughty things out on like fucking night buses and things like that. But I was never at house parties where the really naughty things were happening. I never saw any of that at Coco or Frog or anything. It
did happen once in our student house. We put on we had a skybox and we had a Ricky Hatton fight on. We had like a night out. Then we put on the Ricky Hatton fight versus Mayweather or someone, or Pacquiao, and charge people £1 to get in. And we had everyone, like not people of like this scene particular. Well, like there was everyone basically off the street, and it had a packed house. And then somehow some people started cooking up heroin in the kitchen.
What?
Yeah. Well, I went.
Party's over. Out.
I went to my girlfriend's house and I came back at some point and there was like burnt knives in the kitchen.
Oh, that's grim, isn't it?
And like my mates were like, oh, people started smoking heroin in the kitchen. And
fucking hell. It's just, that's the thing, it's not recreational, this stuff, is it? I never understand the logic of, let's go to a house party and take fucking heroin. It's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What's that bringing to the table?
I don't know, yeah. What was the influence of the era, though? I'm sure a lot of people did it because some of the heroes did it. Like,
Sure, I think there's a level of that to it, isn't there?
if you're hammered and someone says, "Oh, do you want to do some heroin?" You're like,
We've all made bad decisions after a couple of beers, haven't we?
Yeah, I never did it myself.
Oh, God, no.
But yeah.
God, no. Well, on a lighter note, we have, I have arranged a little something for you, Harry. I've arranged a little quiz for us.
Okay.
So.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Exposed.
Okay. First round of the quiz. In tribute to the hit single 50 to a Pound, we've got a quiz called 50 or a Pound. I have got some international currencies. You have to tell me if the number I'm giving you is closer to £50 or a pound.
Okay, I thought it was going to be all Paddingtons related. I was quite nervous then.
It is a little bit. It's a bit of a tenuous link, but 650 Thai baht. Is that closer to 50 or a pound?
Pound.
Correct. It's £15 in GBP. It's a pound. 462 Moldovan leu. Is it 50 or a pound?
It's got to be a pound, hasn't it?
20 English pound. It is closer to a pound. 100 Chinese yen. Oh, sorry, 1,000 Chinese yen. Is it 50 or a pound?
Go 50.
You're going 50. You are correct to go 50. That is 108 English pound. 5,000 Papua New Guinean kina. Is that 50 or a pound?
Ah, God. Go a pound again.
You're wrong to go for a pound. That is
okay.
977 of your English quids.
All right.
Final question of the 50 or a pound round. 600,000 US dollars. Is that closer to 50 or a pound? I'll repeat the question. 600,000 US American dollars. Is that closer to £50 or a pound?
Well, assume it's 50 unless it's gone wild.
It's not a trick question. It's close. 475,000 English pounds. £50 is the answer. We're moving on to the next round of the quiz. True or false? The 1971 London Marathon was won by John First with an impressive time of 2 hours, 13 minutes. True or false? First came first.
Sorry, what?
I'll repeat the question.
Right.
True or false? The 1971 London Marathon was won by John First.
Okay, right.
With an impressive time of 2 hours, 13. Did first come first?
I feel like it could be a trick question. I'm going to say false.
You are correct to say false. First did not come first. It's completely made up. I don't think there was a London Marathon in 1971.
Right, okay.
What would be worse for Tyne and Ware? Worse for where? See what I've done there?
What would be worse for what?
Tyne and Ware. Worse for where? Pedestrianisation of the town centre or a new skate park. What would be worst for Tyne and Ware? Worse for where?
Pedestrianisation sounds quite good, doesn't it? I don't know, mate. Go for the. Oh, mate, I don't know. Pedestrianisation.
Yeah, sure. Why not? We'll take that. That's fine.
I'm not going to slag off a skate park.
Can't take off a skate park, man. That's not in the ethos of the indie lifestyle.
No.
How many miles are there between Paddington (brackets London) and the Paddingtons (brackets Hull)?
220.
You're not far off. 185
Okay,
miles.
right.
So not far off at all. Paddington Bear was born in Peru and loves eating marmalade sandwiches. But what was the Paddingtons' highest charting single?
It was just outside the top. There are two top 40 singles because becomes that's Lloyd's catchphrase apparently in Hull. So there are two top 40 singles.
But that's not the question. Paddington Bear was born in Peru and loves eating marmalade sandwiches. But what was the Paddingtons' highest charting single?
I think 21.
Incorrect. It's Panic Attack at 25.
Ah.
I think a moderate result there, Harry. You should hold your head high on the long journey back up north today.
Cheers,
You've
mate.
done all right, brother. Thank you very much for your time. Honestly, mate, I've really enjoyed having you over. This has been a right laugh. Any final thoughts you want to share with the world, or maybe a chance to plug what's happening with yourself and your podcast?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, well played for starting it.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Like, doing the thing rather than talking about it. It's not always
Well, this
easy.
is it. I should probably say, because I appeared briefly on your podcast
Yeah.
and the Oasis podcast within the space of a couple of weeks. And it's something I always thought I'd be okay at. And you kicked me up the arse, basically, Harry. So I can't thank you enough for being the catalyst behind this. So.
You got it, man. Like I could see on. You got the radio.
You reckon?
Vibe.
It's very kind of you, Harry. I do appreciate that,
yeah.
mate. Well, before my head gets too big, enough about me. On to you, Harry. Anything you'd like to plug, mate?
I mean, yeah. Check out 22 Grand Pod if you're into this type of music or this scene. Be 5 years in April.
Is it 5 years?
It will be in April, yeah.
Wow, Harry, that's huge. Fuck, I didn't realise it'd been that long.
What about the podcast? So yeah, a bit of a catalogue to deep dive now if people fancy it. Should be more...
Numerous Paddingtons episodes, we should say.
Yeah, it might even be another one next year with the anniversary of the first album coming up. Maybe a live event at some point or something to go along with their live shows. If we can maintain the rabble. But yeah, just head across, like and subscribe on YouTube and all that.
Harry, thank you very much indeed. Cheers, mate.
All right, mate. Enjoyed that, man.
Good.